What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Ketchpalia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. Today, I've got a couple updates from Mogul. They sent an email yesterday, and I just got one this morning. Two separate issues. Neither of them, I think, deserving of a full video, but I thought that I'd just throw this out there, just to share. You know, the whole goal is just to share my experience on the platform, what I like about it, what I don't, all that sort of thing. So. First piece of news, they sent this out for the Bosworth. If you remember, this property came out, I think just a few weeks ago. It's a short-term rental, purpose-built on what I think might be a man-made pond. It might not be. It might just be a naturally occurring little pond. But, it's got a pool. It's got all the amenities that you want. It has in-place income. I was really torn when I was going through the video on this one because I liked the in-place income. I think it was, fantastic, purpose-built, amenity-rich property, all the stuff that I like, look for in a short-term rental. On the negative, I couldn't find any good comps. I had a hard time coming up with anything to justify the value. And, and the third thing is I just haven't done well with short-term rentals on Mogul. If I removed all the short-term rentals from my portfolio, my Mogul portfolio would be doing amazing. When I put them in there, it is doing it's doing okay, but they're just really dragging it down. So, I have been, even with that, I was somewhat tempted to buy this one, but the appraisal piece or the valuation piece just was tough to figure out what it's worth. Well, the appraisal came in and it appraised at $2.3 million. Now, that is just one professional's opinion on a given day. But typically when you have a property under contract, there is a bias that the appraisers have that they come in with a number that's very similar to the purchase price, right? And so to have one that comes in above the purchase price is usually a sign that you did actually get a good deal, right? Appraisers don't just do this all the time. It's often a sign to us as investors that, we did negotiate something good. So $75,000 is a decent discount. It's not huge on a percentage basis. I think it's like, somewhere around 3%. But, it makes up, the Mogul fee on this is like $111,000 because it's 5%. If you think about the fact that if you invest through a club, you can get 2% back. And then, and that's like convoluted how the math works, but in the long run, I do believe it really works that way, that you get about 2% of your investments back. And then, we got a 3% discount. So it's almost like, with those two things combined, you can look at this as we're buying it, without having to pay that big fee, right? I mean, that's not exactly how it works, but sometimes I just look at these deals in a couple different ways. And so I thought it was, to get us a good chunk of the way to actually having a deal here where we're not just overpaying I'm pretty excited because in general on Mogul, I often feel like we are paying a premium for the service they're providing. We're paying a fee. They're almost never getting what looks like a real discount to me. And I'm buying on this platform for long-term hold, professional management, and yield. This is one that maybe it appears to be that we're getting in here for an actual discount. And once we add some of the extra costs, we're doing all right, from day one. And there's cash flow in place. Now, I do want to just mention, because I think it was my main concern with this one, when I did the original due diligence video is, it's, they mentioned it's a new construction. Well, if you look at the map in that area, there's a ton of these, purpose-built short-term rentals in that area. And so even though it's doing amazingly well right now, there are, pretty small barriers to entry to build new competition. Although, this property has some amenities that are difficult to duplicate. You've got this little pond that's right there on the property. It's not like the whole area is full of these. There are a couple little ponds in the area. And it is a capital intensive thing to come in and build additional competition. But that was one of my concerns. at the same time, this is a deal that I was kind of on the fence about, and it's this is one more big positive, right? Knowing that an appraiser said this is worth more than what we have it under contract for. And if you remember, the reason this is so hard to value is it is a very unique property. It's in a market without a ton of sales, of properties that were similar. And so I think having that third party confirmation would make me more comfortable. If it weren't for the fact that my short-term rentals are just doing horrible on Mogul, then it would be, this would be one that I'd probably pick up, but that's just been the case, and it's hard not to hold that against them, even though I think they have clearly learned, and my most recent short-term rental purchase on there seems like it might do a little better. It's starting off slowly, but anyway, that's it. I don't want to rehash that whole video about why I may or may not invest in this deal. But I wanted to just point out that, hey, look, it did appraise. We're getting it at least under what that appraiser thinks it's worth. The next thing I wanted to mention is, so I haven't had to vote on Mogul yet, and I got my first email saying, hey, you need to vote on one of your properties. Please cast your vote. So I wanted to just share what this vote, how Mogul's voting system works and everything. Before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description of this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Please do your own due diligence on all the platforms that I mentioned and any of the properties that I'm invested in or talk about. Just because I invest in them doesn't mean that you should, and just because I pass on them doesn't mean it might not be a good deal for you. Also, in the description of this video, I have a link to the Discord channel I set up. There's about 270 of us that are in there. A lot of lurkers, but a lot of people that are also just sharing good info about properties, about due diligence, about new platforms. And so please feel free to join that. There is no cost. It's not a sales funnel. You might get DMs from someone who looks like me and is trying to sell you something. That's an imposter. Please just report them. There's zero chance I'll ever just cold DM you just because you joined the group and try to sell you any sort of services, coaching, none of that. That's not the purpose. It is just a place for us to gather, share details about different platforms, different strategies, share due diligence, whatnot. So anyway, back to this. So I haven't used their voting system yet. So, okay, the Swift needs your vote. When I come through here, I go to my portfolio page, and you can see active vote requires attention. So I got an email. Also, when you log in, you have this little thing. You have an alert, and this is the first time I've had a task. And so you click on your tasks, and oh, okay, I've got 3 days remaining to cast this vote. This is the same thing that pops up if I went to the, this is the same thing if I go to the portfolio page. I just wanted to point this out. I think this, this is really clean compared to the way we have votes on. The only other platform we're voting on currently is on Lofty. And that, we get an email. You can put any email address, and you can share that link. You can put any email address. So I really like that on Mogul. This is just integrated into the platform already. They're not, they're not counting on just making sure. Obviously, I had to get that email to know about this, or if I logged in, I'd get an alert. On Lofty, that doesn't happen, right? So, I thought it's pretty interesting to, I'm only comparing them to them because they're the only other platform right now where I have that there's some voting. So they mentioned, okay, this is the Swift. This is my short-term rental, I think in Gilbert. It's in Arizona anyway, the Phoenix Glendale market. Apparently we were using an out-of-state manager before, and they didn't know about this rule that we needed this thing surrounding the pool. I think that's actually horrible. I have a very strong preference for local management. And we did switch to a new manager, and that's how come we're finding out about this. And so for compliance, there has to be this, a child-proof barrier around the pool. And they tell us, okay, this is the recommended option. This is the people they'd want to go with, and the expense. then we have, okay, this a second option that we could have. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, so it looks like it looked like there's a PDF, but that it doesn't open. It opens. This XML file does not appear to have any style information associated with it. I don't know what's going on there. So that seems like a bug. See if the other one's like that. Okay, the other one came up. So I don't know. Maybe they had some issue loading that. But yeah, so this is the other quote. It is kind of interesting. I understand that the reason that we're doing the votes is, to just sort of legitimize the investment club strategy, right? Like where this, they're saying that, okay, this isn't a security. We have some governance options, but at the same time, like, okay, we have two options, and very little detail, and they're both the same price, right? So are we really making a choice here? I mean, technically we are. And if this gets, makes it so it's compliant, hey, I'm perfectly happy with that, because on Mogul, my goal is to, be invested with this professional team that I trust. I want to lean on their decisions, but okay, when there's big decisions, maybe I'd like to weigh in. So I'm perfectly fine with this. I am curious what other people think about it. I also don't see any way that if I want to interact with other people that specifically own this property, like if I wanted to say, hey, I've worked with Arizona childproofers before and I loved them, or I didn't like them, or whatever it is, I don't see any mechanism for me to do that. I think that would be really useful. Now, obviously, we could go into the clubs, but there's no guarantee, there's no easy way to get to all the other owners of a specific property. And I think that's something that they should think about and including. Because it is, I've noticed this, like when we do votes on Lofty, at least there I can submit like a counter proposal, even though it's never a true counter proposal, but I can submit an email that will then get sent out to all the owners that says, hey, I don't like this. I think we should do this, whatever it is. And so I'm not sure that there's any mechanism to do that on Mogul. For this one, there's not anything I'd want to actually respond with, and I would just vote. And so when I click on this vote, what happens? This is the first time I've ever done this. Oh, it's done. So I guess my vote is sent. The little button disappears. It's that simple. I don't know. I mean, when we spend a lot, like there's been people on the Lofty Discord for a long time saying, hey, when's governance 2.0? And I actually think like this, this little voting setup on Mogul, where there's definitely improvements to be made. The fact that they have it integrated into their platform already, so I can't miss it, right? Okay, if I missed the email, but I still logged into Mogul, I would get the alert. I'd know. And then, presumably if I had, questions to ask, I can always just ask the tree. So, but it is, the only thing I'd like to see them add is some way for me to talk to all the other owners of this property. So if I wanted to weigh in now, maybe they don't want to see that, right? Because sometimes that does turn into a big mess. And if we're really just like sort of making these votes in, just to be compliant as a non-security, then, maybe we don't. Maybe they don't really want some owners trying to sway other owners into their way of thinking, right? Maybe like the goal is, my guess is 99% of the people clicked on that, said, oh, this one's recommended, let me just click it. It is disappointing that they didn't catch the fence barrier requirement. That's a requirement in lots of different markets. And so it's something that I'm always looking for when I'm looking at short-term rentals. But, again, it's one of the dangers of using a property manager that's not specialized in the local area. Because, if you use my PM here in town, they're never going to miss something like that. Like, that's like, there's certain things that just would just be glaringly obvious. And and so we've been at risk for a little while operating this property. without that barrier. Now, it's not the end of the world, and I think it's a good thing that we switched to, let me show you the Swift too. So I think it had that picture, but yeah, this is, so you can see what we're talking about even. Right, like this pool is just wide open, right? There's no way, like if a kid is in the backyard, they can just fall right in the pool. And so there needs to be a barrier put up around the pool. Yeah, I mean, like if I saw this pool in my market, I would know this is a problem and we need to do something about it. And that's the thing, that's one of the big risks of investing all over the country, right? There's a lot of benefits. We talk about the diversification and whatnot, but it is, it is an issue that you might not always know what's required in certain areas. It's interesting that we're voting on what pool company to use to put up a fence, basically, when they're both the same price, but we didn't vote on switching property managers, right? Which to me seems like the bigger decision. I'm guessing, and I don't know this for sure because I haven't read it in a long time, but we have a copy of the operating agreement, and my guess is this is outlined in here, and I just don't remember it because I read the operating agreement for the first time over a year ago, and honestly, I don't open it up every time and read it again. They could have changed their standard form. I guess I should probably do that once in a while and make sure that they're all the same. Anyway, I just wanted to point out, hey, this is how their voting works. I thought that worked pretty well. I wanted to record it while I did it because I wasn't sure if it was going to go away, and it did go away. So it's good to know. Do I even have a tasks option? Yeah, now I don't even have, you just have all and unread and there's no tasks. Anyway, I thought their execution of that was pretty well, worked pretty well. I like it a lot better than, getting emailed a link that really anybody that has your email could use. So yeah, I'm curious, if you're on here, do you think it's important for us to be able to send some suggestions to other owners, or, are you of sort of the same mind that like, no, we're really just trusting the Mogul's execution, and okay, us taking part in the voting is just a necessary, is just something that we're doing in order to remain compliant as an investment club. Because honestly, that's sort of the way I'm perfectly fine with that, because I don't, I want to use my own, my own knowledge and experience when picking the properties. But once they've, once I'm invested in one of these deals, I just want to get out of their way, right? I don't want to try to tell them to do this, that, or the other thing. And, honestly, if there was something that was so important, I would just reach out to them directly. And, they've been very, open to talk about things and share information. And I could imagine if there was something that seemed glaringly wrong to me, and I made a good case to them, that, they would either share it with the other owners, maybe, or, address the concern in some way. I mean, obviously, it would have to be something really problematic, because I do think that on a day-to-day operation standpoint, I don't want to be weighing in on anything that I have a $500 investment or a $1,000 investment or even a $5,000 investment, right? Like, that's not where I want to be. But that's just me. I know some of you guys will own one token in a property, and you want to, be part of driving where that's going. And that's just a different, we're just different people. And I think that's, there's a platform if that's you, right? Anyway, that's really all I wanted to share. Just a couple pieces of news about Mogul. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.